Rachel, I'm going to unmute you here, and you can start us off. Go ahead, Rachel Bachman.
Great, okay. Rachel Bachman from the Wall Street Journal. Good to see you, Kristen. This might be a hard question to answer during a pandemic, but I'm wondering, particularly since the World Cup, how you and the other women's national teams players have been greeted, both from the media, from sort of like the public that you happen to encounter. I mean, do you notice a difference since the World Cup? And if so, how do people sort of greet you and regard you now?
Yeah, that is a much more challenging question with where we are this year. But, I always look at before and after the 2015 World Cup as a very significant moment in my life where my everyday experience as an athlete changed. And I think because of that change and where I was in my career, I really look back at that as a pinnacle moment in how the public treated the team. And it's absolutely no different from 2019. It's just more expected because for me, in 2019, I understood what it meant to win a World Cup and to be playing for something much bigger than just your sport, and everything that the team represented. Now, 2 summers ago, I understood what that meant. And I think as a younger player, sometimes you don't realize it until you're already in it. And now, in social distancing all the time, being international, not being with the team, of course it's different. But I think if you look at, when we step out of this moment and we look at the change and the bump and the notoriety and the impact that the 2019 World Cup had on women's soccer, and especially women's soccer in the United States, it's going to be massive.
And what about just in Europe in particular? Because it seems like the difference in 2019 was the ratings were so much bigger in Europe. It was in Europe. We really caught fire. England did well. Do you notice any difference in terms of being greeted by European fans? Just the profile of women's football generally.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think specifically in England, there is a bump of interest in the women's game, in support of the women's game, and that has come from a number of different reasons. But I think everyone's learning that if you invest in your women's team, there's a huge reward for that, and that our game is valuable. And the more that every team does get invested in, the more they will, because it's a very positive thing for a federation. And so I think that's what I'm experiencing in England is the introduction of more resources, which changes, the English players' popularity, the professionalism, internationally and at the league level.
Thank you.
Thanks. We're going to go to Meg Linehan. Go ahead, Meg.
Hi, Kristen. Meg Linehan, The Athletic. I just asked Kelly the same question, but there is a pretty heavy Stanford presence at this camp, which Kelly was obviously excited about. Just was hoping to get your take on if you think that there's something special to that environment at Stanford that lends itself to the national team.
Of course. I mean, this team is always pulling from the college that is doing very, very well. And there's been a history of a lot of UNC players on this team because that was the team that was dominating. And when Kelly and I were playing for Stanford, it was very much a turning point in that program. And I remember when I was in high school, Stanford wasn't in the top 20. And that's so different now. And seeing the presence of all the Stanford players here shows that. I think that it's a fantastic program. It's a program that pushes you in football tactically. It pushes you intellectually, emotionally, and I think that helps student athletes thrive. And as as the program has had continued success in the last now almost 10 years since I played there, it's only getting stronger and stronger. And as long as the program's thriving, there's going to be players here, and I'm very proud of that.
Are there ever any moments where, like a Sophia Smith or Katarina Macario do something and you can look at it and go like, oh, that's a Stanford thing, right? Like, are there things that are just so indicative of what program someone left from a college point of view?
Yeah, I think less than like a given moment. The college system really does show your style of play. Like, I was going to say impact, but it's like what came first. Are they recruiting certain types of players, or are they shaping those players? But I think, Stanford is a very unified program where they win as a collective. And so you have players that play with their head up, that interchange in positions. And I think as the style of the U.S. women's national team evolves, it actually lends itself more towards that program.
Thanks, CP. We're going to go to our Dutch friend now. Rivka, you are up. Rivka, we can't hear you, although you are unmuted. All right, maybe we'll come. No, maybe we'll come back. We'll come back. Stay there. Oh, no, I can hear you now. Go.
Okay, maybe this is better?
Yes.
There you go. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Ironically, I'm the closest one. Thanks. Christen, hi, my name is Ritka. I'm from the Dutch media, NOS. I was wondering if you could tell me something about your choice to move to England, and also what your impression is of the Women's Super League after these months.
Yes. If you had asked me a few months ago, I never would have expected to be playing in England. But I'm very, very happy with that decision. I'm enjoying my time with Manchester United. I think it's a fantastic environment. And I enjoy playing in such a competitive team. They're attracting international talent at the moment, so not just the best English players, but from all over the world, and that's really important for me in this moment in my career, to continue to challenge myself and mark myself against the world's best. So it's been a fantastic experience so far. I personally feel like I have a long way to go to get back into my flow and my expectations for the type of player that I want to be. But I feel very confident in the choice that I've made to go, and that I'm in a great training environment where I will be able to get there.
Thanks. Moving on, we're going to go back to Daniel from Univision. Go ahead, Daniel. Who's broadcasting the game, by the way?
Yeah, in Spanish. So thank you, Aaron, again.
Yeah.
Christen, what do you think it will be the biggest asset that you can add to your playing style now in Manchester United?
Do you mean like as an individual player, what I bring to the team?
Yes. What can Manchester United bring to your game? What can change?
Oh, okay. So I'll answer both sides of that question just to make sure I understand. I think for me, what I'm bringing to the program is experience and like a little bit of leadership. It's a very young squad. And then on the field, I think it's threatening and behind and expanding the game. And then in return, I think that I'm playing in an amazing environment where players are really valued and taken care of. We have great leadership in our head coach. And I think that is what is making me feel most supported. It's been an incredibly hard time for all of us in all different professions. But for me, I feel really blessed to now be under management that is really supportive of what I need to do. And so I have flexibility in how I'm training and what I'm doing because there are quite big stylistic differences in the training in England to what I'm used to. But I have some space for myself to just hold what I need. I think that's really important for me to get back to my top level.
Thanks, Daniel. Thanks, Christen. Going to Julie Foudy. Go ahead, Julie.
Nice. Hi, Christen. How are you? You mentioned long way to get back into my flow and get back to where I want to be. I mean, and especially since my last memories are you knocking in beautiful goals in the She Believes Cup. Where are you in that progression? And when you say I need to get back to where I want to be, how do you get there and where do you need to get?
I think the biggest thing that I really want is just repeated games. And so in some ways, that's where I finally am. And it's been a lot of waiting just to get back to this moment where you have consistency of play. And I think for me and my personality, I need to be consistently scoring. And the more that I score, the more that I can score. So those are like kind of the two things that I am and have been waiting for, just like consistent minutes in games and consistent opportunities to score. And when I say flow, I think as you know, when I play, I don't think at all. And I've been away from football for so long that I can, at moments, I can hear my thoughts. And so that's like a very internal answer of like what I find like when I'm back to me. It's just when I'm just there and I kind of don't even know that I'm there. I'm just like, I know that I was once on the field, but I couldn't tell you what happened. And that just comes with time. And it's why I love the game. And you have to work really, really hard to find that place. Where you're at ease. And I have worked my whole career to just find it for moments in a game. And that journey was reset when, leagues and national team were canceled. It was absolutely reset. And I think that from a very narrow soccer perspective can be a good thing. Because the process of finding it is like what I love the most. And so now I find myself in that process again. And, the goal of my life is to constantly be in this process where I'm challenging myself to be my best self and to be honestly my most content self.
And just to follow up on that, when you talk about challenging yourself, what has been the hardest adjustment on or off the field in terms of this entirely new environment?
Do you mean playing in Manchester?
Yes.
I think I am still trying to figure out how I can be most impactful. The game is not as transitional and not as direct. And so it's not the exact same solution that it was in the NWSL for how I personally make an impact. I've also been in various moments in my career playing wide and playing central. And so going back to being primarily a number 9, I also have to adjust some of the tactical decisions and positioning that I have so that I can be really, really effective in this league. And playing a 9 in a league where defenses stay organized is quite different from playing 9 in a league where, the outside backs are getting really high and there's a lot of space to play in. So I'm still kind of in the trial and error phase of like, how can I make the biggest impact consistently?
Great, thank you so much.
Thanks, Jules. I really apologize. We only have time for one more, and that's going to go to Seth. For Tell Me Seth, you are on.
Hey Christen, Seth for Tell Me with Goal.com. Thanks for taking the time. I wanted to ask about the expansion draft. Going into the draft, did you have any kind of inclination that you might be selected, and what was your reaction when you were picked?
Yes, I did have some knowledge about that beforehand. And I'm very glad that the NWSL is expanding and growing. I think that's hugely important. And for me, in this moment, I think 2020 has reminded me to the importance of just being present in where I am. And in this moment, I am a U.S. women's national team player for the first time in a very long time, and I'm a Manchester United player. And the future doesn't really hold any certainty. So I think in this year, it's been hard to really conceptualize what this all means. But I know the importance of the NWSL pushing on and pushing forward and continuing to grow and better women's soccer in America, and so I'm happy for that.